Okay, I think we're ready to start the webinar. So hello and welcome to what is the next episode in our series of critical infrastructure solutions for data centers. My name is Marcus Doran and I'm the General Manager for RAHI Systems here in Europe. And today's webinar is in conjunction with our partner Juniper Networks. In the hot seat today, we've got Bill Kine, who is with Juniper, and he has over 20 years experience in designing, optimizing and troubleshooting advanced communication networks. His specialities are advanced routing and switching and network security, and he's been with Juniper for over 12 years and currently managing the West Channel SE team, ensuring that Juniper partners are all up to date on their cutting edge product offerings and that they are technologically savvy. So welcome, Bill. What we would like to do is just ask our attendees today to use the chat box to submit any questions throughout the presentation. What we'll do is address those after the presentation, and for those that we don't get the opportunity to answer individually, we will circle back and come back to those. So again, thanks for everybody for joining, and we hand it over to Bill. Thanks, Bill.
Hello. On behalf of Juniper Networks and RAHI Systems, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to learn about a whole new concept in data security. This is called software-defined secure networks, or SDSN as we like to say. Basically, this enables you to use your entire network as a giant firewall in order to detect and prevent security breaches. My name is Bill Kine. I'm a systems engineering manager with Juniper, and I'm going to take you through an overview of this technology in the next 15 to 20 minutes. The agenda briefly, first of all, is why are we here? Why does this matter? Secondly, we'll talk about some security fundamentals, and then we'll get into a whole new concept of security, or software-defined secure networks. And finally, we'll wrap up by showing you that this is also very easy to manage. Although it may be a complex process and complex system, the management is actually quite straightforward. So to start, why are we here? Well, frankly, we want to keep you and your customers out of the headlines. No one really wants to have an announcement that XYZ Corporation suffered a major data breach and compromised thousands of records of customers. So the bottom line, it's a pretty scary world. You've seen lots of stats along these lines by all different vendors. People could debate the actual numbers, but the reality of it is there are millions and millions of problems, and more come each day. Frankly, the bad guys outnumber the good. They're better funded than the good guys, and they're more motivated than the good guys to accomplish whatever task they've set out to do. So it becomes incumbent upon all of us to find a solution for this, where some people say we should stay one step ahead of the bad guys. Frankly, I don't think that's possible. I'd like to stay less than one step behind them, though, at all times. And that's what we're going to show you how to do. Another reason why we're here is security solutions from all vendors have become increasingly complex, if not convoluted and confusing. Multi-vendor solutions often have interoperability problems and management challenges, and sometimes you have to train people on all different platforms, which may or may not work together. So by piling on more and more platforms, be them hardware or software, you're not necessarily improving your overall security stance if these don't effectively work together, and if they don't actually move data as well for both good and bad purposes. So with that in mind, what's Juniper bring to the party? Juniper's security is based upon a platform we call the SRX, and the way you read that is it's for security, routing, and switching. It's a whole product family of both physical and virtual devices. If you look down at the bottom left of the slide, that's a little paperback novel-sized firewall, sub $1,000, but it has all of the exact same features as a giant 2 terabit firewall on the upper right. So if you have a feature on one device, you have it on all devices. Additionally, if you train somebody how to configure one of these devices, they can also use all of them as well. All of these platforms run the Junos operating system, so that's also consistent with our switches and routers. So your entire infrastructure can be based upon a common operating system, managed by common tools, and implemented by engineers who have been trained on any one of those devices. So all of the knowledge becomes transferable across the platforms. Just to set a baseline, one of the most overused terms in the security industry is NGFW, or Next Generation Firewall. Frankly, every vendor has a next-gen firewall these days, so it's kind of redundant to actually call it that. It really is a current generation of firewalls. The concept of a next-gen firewall is that it will track individual users and individual applications. So it will say that user X is allowed to get to email, surf the internet, and look at your CRM system. But user X should be kept out of HR, accounting, and maybe some advanced engineering systems. The device or the platform will then track user X as an individual, so it will log what he does or what he doesn't do or what he attempts to do as well. So you'll have that level of visibility. So every vendor now has that capability. From a Juniper standpoint, we'd like to tout some of the performance that goes with that, up to 2 terabits of performance. We'd also like to mention that we're tracking over 4,000 unique applications. But frankly, NGFW gets you in the game. It's the table stakes or the ante for a firewall discussion. Some differentiators. Juniper has just refreshed our entire SRX product family. The simple arithmetic is all of the new devices are approximately 4 times the performance of their predecessors for pretty much the same price. So available now, Juniper has full next-gen firewall capabilities, even though, again, I don't like that term. And we can effectively compete feature to feature or on price with any of the other vendors. A quick differentiator that I should mention for Juniper. Now to start talking about some differentiators. No one in Juniper knows where the next threat will come from or what exactly it will be. I would submit that no one in any vendor actually knows that. Once again, the bad guys, especially the overseas contingents, tend to outnumber us, and they tend to be a little more creative in a very dark way than some of the folks developing the remedies and solutions. So given that, Juniper likes to use some collective intelligence in order to be able to identify threats and implement or block those threats for our users. With that, we use cloud intelligence, or something we call Sky for the cloud, advanced threat protection. The concept here is that the 2 most common ways to transmit malware are either through email as an attachment, and a lot of ransomware has come that way. For example, the Lockheed strain that infected many users, no Juniper customers, but many other users about a year ago, or through internet downloads. Click here for more information. Click here for a new report or a new game. So we can't block either of those applications from the customers. Email and internet downloads are something that's a very routine day-to-day process for just about everyone. However, when we see something being downloaded, either as an email attachment or as a click here type download, we can analyze it further to determine whether it's safe or suspicious or outright dangerous. To do that, we use cloud services. So we will upload the device to the cloud, we'll analyze it, and we'll return a verdict to the firewall. The file that's uploaded to the cloud will quickly be reviewed to see if it's anything that our servers have seen before. If it is, then we'll have a conclusion right away as to whether or not it's good or bad, and we'll be able to return that information to the user. If it hasn't been seen before, if it's something brand new, potentially a 0-day threat, first of all, we'll run it against 8 different antivirus engines. All of these are done concurrently, so you're not waiting for the latency of 8 different engines in a serial fashion. We'll look and see what it returns for that. We'll also look and see what the basic file attributes are. Has it been copied and pasted many times? What language is it written in? Is it going to call a bunch of executables? Is it going to go out to some strange URLs, etc.? Based upon that information, we'll be able to make a determination as well as to whether or not this is something that's safe or dangerous. And finally, we'll sandbox the device too, or the application rather. So if it's an executable, we will actually run it for 7 minutes in the sandbox and see what it does. It may detonate, in which case it's obviously some malware, or it may just do some things that are slightly strange, like allocate lots of memory, or search for a credit card file, or maybe try to review the contact list. If any of those take place, it'll also factor into the result that we return to let your firewall make a decision as to whether or not to allow this particular file or to block it, or potentially to flag it, write a report, do further analysis, whatever your procedures may be internally. So bottom line, lots of ransomwares were in the headlines over the last 12 months. No Juniper subscribers were hit with any of the major ones. So it's a good opportunity to save your Bitcoins there. Okay, that's basically an overview of what Juniper has within our standard products. Now let's expand the conversation to software-defined secure networks, or what we really want to talk about. So the concept here is Juniper's firewall is a picture on the right. Many other vendors and competitors make firewalls. Juniper makes firewalls. We just talked about that as an SRX. But once again, we have the common operating system, Junos. So we can use that throughout the infrastructure in order to enforce security policies and to detect any kind of breaches within those policies. So we're using the SRX, certainly, in order to monitor traffic and apply policies. We're using cloud services to detect malware and also to detect known hackers or threats. And we're sharing that information throughout the entire network. So if somebody new comes into your organization with their laptop, and either they maliciously or perhaps unknowingly have a potential threat contained on that device, we can isolate them no matter where they go within the infrastructure. So let's carry this a little bit further with an example. Software-defined secure networks, or SDSN, in action, containing the threat at the source. So here you see a typical meeting taking place in a conference room. The presenter has PowerPoint up on the screen, and most of the attendees have their laptops out to either take notes or to multitask, or perhaps even to participate in the meeting itself. If one of those was infected, or if one of those was a bad actor, surely the organization has a firewall. The firewall goes to the internet, and it will prevent that bad actor from getting out to the internet. So in essence, the firewall protects the internet from that particular bad actor or that particular malware. Now that's a wonderful thing. Since we're all frequent internet users, I'm sure we appreciate the fact that others are protecting us as well. However, that really doesn't help the individual or the organization or the conference room that you're seeing depicted here. Instead, threats can move laterally through wireless access points or through the switches without ever getting to the firewall. So in other words, that entire conference room, perhaps the entire floor, perhaps the entire organization could be infected with the malware before you get to the firewall. With software-defined secure networks, we would have pushed the detection and prevention down to the switch level, and actually that switch, although we can make a good case as to why it should be a Juniper solution, could also be a third-party switch as well. We're now working on pushing that detection and enforcement even further out to some of the wireless access points, and we'll be working with some of the larger vendors in that particular market as well. So now, the guy circled in red has malware on his workstation, and we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say he doesn't even know it's there. We'll detect that his workstation tried to do something a bit anomalous. We'll then quarantine that workstation at the source and prevent things from spreading. And finally, if he takes a workstation to another conference room or back to his office, or even dials in, that's old school, connects remotely from a hotel room, we'll still be able to track him as an individual and still quarantine that particular device until it's remediated. One more aspect of the SDSN story is the Internet of Things. We've all heard about this. Potentially, we all have devices, both at home and at work, that are attaching to the Internet. And this is actually a real challenge for our security people. Traditional firewalls have policies, once again, saying customer X, or user X rather, can get to certain resources such as email, but not to others. That firewall probably does not have a policy for vending machines, or cameras, or refrigerators, or light bulbs, but yet all of those could be sources of a potential vulnerability. A hotel in Las Vegas had their fish tank attack the rest of the organization. So if you look at the Internet of Things, just the three examples here. Last year there was ransomware that actually attacked Internet-attached thermoses. It would hijack the thermos and set the temperature to 99 degrees. Why 99? Well, it turns out the temperature field on these devices was 2 digits, so that was the maximum they could actually implement. So it would heat the house to 99 degrees and would not release or could not be reset until a special code was entered. To get that special code, you had to pay half a Bitcoin on a particular website. So basically ransomware hitting home, where spouses, kids, and ourselves would reside. Amazon shipped a whole batch of web cameras with malware already infected. So this is a case where we weren't asking the user to click here or to open an email attachment. The malware was already embedded in the device that was designed, actually, ironically, to protect the organization. And then there's another example of a university a while ago that was attacked through a denial of service storm by their vending machines. The vending machines were internet attached so that they could keep track of inventory, probably keep track of the money, possibly adjust the prices remotely based upon whatever factors were appropriate. But that also became an entry point into the overall network, and therefore a potential vulnerability as well. So once again, what firewall policies do you have that address thermostats and vending machines? From a software-defined secure networks perspective, we would notice strange traffic coming out of vending machines, or we would notice that firewalls were trying to connect to a weird website somewhere remotely. And then we'd be able to, or not firewalls, security cameras rather, were trying to connect to a strange website remotely. We'd then be able to quarantine those devices, generate an alarm, and let somebody look into it further before any more damage could be done. So that's the essence of software-defined secure networks. It's detection and prevention as close to the source of the problem as possible. And that's the difference between using a whole infrastructure for security versus just one particular device. To wrap up, that sounds like a complex concept, and in all fairness, it is somewhat. So in order to manage these things, we need a very simple user interface so that actually policies are deployed, reports are read, alarms are responded to, etc. So with that, we'd like to introduce a concept we call Sky, once again for cloud-based services enterprise, a firewall management solution. So this lets you keep track of all of your devices, lets you upgrade them when new versions of Junos come out. It has simple red, yellow, and green alarms based upon whatever characteristics you want. Certainly those could be physical characteristics such as a potential failure, power supply issue, link overload, maybe the fan isn't working, whatever the case may be. But you can also get much more granular and get down to the individual policy alerts. So if you see somebody hitting your HR computers repeatedly, that could generate an alarm or a report that you could drill down to for more information. Sky Enterprise is really designed to do three things for you. First of all, it's designed for configuration, so it's how you push the configs and the policies out to either an individual device or, more realistically, a whole group of devices throughout your organization. It's designed for monitoring. We talked about that already with regards to keeping track of issues, alarms, generating reports, detecting anomalies, etc. And finally, it's of course available, or it helps with reporting as well. So altogether, this really simplifies the management of some rather sophisticated devices. With that, kind of wrapped up my overview here. My final plea is please, together, let's work together to stay out of the headlines. For more information or for a live demo, please contact Rahi Systems or your local Juniper rep, and we would love to work with you.
Okay, Bill, well, thanks for that. We have a number of questions in the chat box, and again, thanks to those who have submitted their questions over the course of the presentation. The first question in for you is, what does SRX stand for?
SRX stands for Secure Route and Switch.
Question number 2, what is software-defined secure networking?
Software-defined secure networking, also known as SDSN, is your network as a firewall. It is a cyber defense ecosystem that is capable of defending your business with end-to-end security capabilities that mitigate any risks of breach.
There's a couple of more questions in the chat box. So question number 3, what is your cloud management platform called?
Our cloud management platform is called Sky Enterprise. It's a simple and intuitive web user interface that supports enterprise-grade SRX secure router and EX switches.
Okay, I think we've time for one more question. So question number 4, what are some of the next generation firewall features of SRX?
Some of our next generation firewall features of SRX include application visibility, addressing new user behaviors, web filtering, antivirus, data loss prevention, anti-spam, and many more.
So that brings us to the end of the Q&A session and also to the webinar. Again, I'd like to thank all of the individuals for submitting the questions in our chat box. There was a couple that we didn't get to at the very end. A real big thank you to Bill for his presentation and answers at the end also. For more information on Juniper Networks, please take the time to come to our website at rahisystems.com, where we'll have more information on future webinars. So again, thank you to all who have attended today. We hope you have a great day, and we look forward to talking to you again. Goodbye.